Hi, I am Srinivas Reddy Palam, lecturer in computer engineering, Kuli Kutub Shah Government Polytechnic. I'm going to handle the session for today. I'm going to discuss algorithms and flowcharts, and also I will discuss problem solving steps. So in this session, we will discuss problem solving steps, algorithms. We'll see what are algorithms, what are the algorithm steps, and what are the characteristics of algorithms, and also we'll see flowcharts. What are the advantages and disadvantages with flowcharts? What is actually a flowchart? And what are all the different symbols that we can use in flowchart? All these things we will discuss in today's session. So let's discuss first what is problem solving. So there are problems, six steps in problem solving. The first step is identifying the problem, and then we have to understand the problem, and also then we have to identify alternative ways to solve the problem. Select the best way to solve the problem from the list of alternative solutions. That is the fourth step. And in the fifth step, we have to list instructions that enable you to solve the problem using the selected solution, and finally evaluate the solution. So these are the six steps in the problem solving. So in the problem solving, we need to first identify the problem. What is the problem that we are going to solve, and what is the problem you are going to find the solution for which. All these things we have to identify first. That is the very first step. After that, you have to understand the problem. So then, after identifying the problem, you should understand what is the problem, why it is required, why it needs to be solved. If you don't solve, what are the pros, and if you solve the problem, what are the profits that you will get, and if you don't solve, what is the problem that you are going to face. All these things you have to understand, and how you have to solve the problem also you have to understand. So in this stage, you will thoroughly understand what is the problem, what are the requirements for solving this problem, and all these things. Who is the stake, who are the stakeholders for this problem solution. All these things we will identify. Then that means we will understand, and after that we have to identify alternative ways to solve the problem. So then you have to, after identifying the problem and understanding the problem, then you have to identify alternative ways to solve the problem. So what are the different ways to solve the problem? All these things you have to identify. There may be several solutions for or several ways to solve the problem. So all these ways you have to identify in the third step. That is the third step of problem solving. And in the fourth step, select the best way to solve the problem from the list of alternative solutions. So in this way, in this fourth step, we have to identify what is the best way to solve the problem from all the alternative solutions. Suppose if you want to make a move from your home to Hyderabad, then you suppose you are staying at Nizamabad, then we have to identify which is the best possible path for reaching Hyderabad from your home. Um, that is Nizamabad. From Nizamabad, if you want to go to Hyderabad, there are several routes. So these are all the alternative routes. That is identifying the alternative ways. So among these ways, which one is the least traffic way, and which one is the highway, which one is having the better mileage. All these things you have to understand, and then you have to choose the best route for reaching Hyderabad from Nizamabad. So these are all the alternative solution. The first one is the route which is taking the um, best mileage, and the second one is the route with lesser distance, and the third one is the route with less traffic. So these are all the three routes for reaching the Hyderabad from Nizamabad. So among these, which one is the best? Depending on your situation, you have to choose. So depending on the choice that was chosen, you have selected, you should proceed. So then, and the fifth step, list instructions that enable you to solve the problem using the selected solution. In the fifth step, you should list the instructions that enable you to solve the problem using the selected solution. Suppose if you choose the way that is least traffic, then you should proceed with, and you should move how you have to go. So the steps, depending on the chosen path, you should select the steps. and then finally evaluate the solution. After reaching the destination, you should evaluate the solution. That is, once you have solved the problem, you should evaluate the solution, how much time it has taken, and how much complexity is there in solving that problem. All these things with the particular solution that you have chosen, you have to analyze what is the time complexity, what is the runtime complexity, and how much space the particular that means how much space has been occupied for that particular solution development. All these things you have to consider, and then you have to uh, analyze, so that in the next um, in the next time you can select the alternative solution that will take the least cost for you. Okay, that is the problem solving, and these six steps in problem solving. Then our next topic for today's discussion is algorithm and flowcharts. So let's see what is algorithm. Algorithm. So the definition is, the word algorithm relates to the name of the mathematician Alko Warizmi, which means a procedure or a technique. So the mathematician Al-Khwarizmi has developed this or coined this word algorithm, and which means a procedure or a technique. Software engineers commonly use an algorithm for planning and solving the problem. So algorithm is a sequence of steps to solve a particular problem, or algorithm is an ordered set of unambiguous steps that produce a result and terminates in a finite time. So what is algorithm? Basically, is a algorithm is a sequence of steps to solve a particular problem. So there may be several steps that you have to follow for solving a particular problem. So all these steps, if they are taken in sequence, that will together make your problem solution. And that particular those particular steps that you have taken in sequence are nothing but algorithm. Algorithm is an ordered set of unambiguous steps that produce a result and terminates in a finite time. So your algorithm is an ordered set. You should proceed in either ascending order or descending order, some order you have to follow, and the set of unambiguous steps. So in those order of steps also, the order of steps should be unambiguous. Order of steps should be unambiguous, and the steps that were taken also should be unambiguous. And then once these steps were taken, that produces a result. So it should produce a result, and and those steps should terminate in a finite time. These steps should also be terminated in a finite time. They should not take infinite time. So if it takes infinite time, then it cannot be called algorithm, because it won't produce the result in a finite time. Algorithm has the following characteristics. So every algorithm will have certain characteristics. What are those characteristics we will discuss. First one is input. An algorithm may or may not require input. So the very first characteristic is, if the algorithm may or may not require input. Sometimes an algorithm may not require input, or it may require input. So depending on the problem that you are solving, it may require input or it may not require. So it is the very first characteristic. So every algorithm may or may not require input. Second, output. Each algorithm is expected to produce at least one result. So each and every algorithm that you have developed, it will finally produce at least one result. It may produce several results also, but it must produce at least one result. For that purpose only, you have developed or written this algorithm. Even it may not take input, but it may produce output, or it may take input and it may produce at least one output, or it may produce several results also. It may produce one result, or it may produce several results also. These are the two characteristics. And the third one is definiteness. Each instruction must be clear and unambiguous. So in the algorithm, for solving the problem, you will write certain instructions. Those instructions must be clear and unambiguous. So the definition itself is, algorithm is an ordered set of unambiguous steps that produce a result and terminates in a finite time. So unambiguous steps, in each and every step, you for developing or writing the logic of that particular step, you will write certain instructions. Those instructions must be clear and unambiguous. That is nothing but definiteness. So each instruction must be clear and unambiguous. That will define you the definiteness of your algorithm. And finiteness. If the instructions of an algorithm are executed, the algorithm should terminate after finite number of steps. So finiteness means if the instructions of an algorithm are executed, the algorithm should terminate after finite number of steps. Once you execute your algorithm, that means you have written an algorithm and you have developed in a programming language that particular algorithm. If that program is executed, the algorithm should terminate after finite number of steps. So it should not have infinite number of steps. So then that again leads to an ambiguity whether it will terminate or it won't terminate. So your algorithm, that once it is executed, the algorithm should terminate after finite number of steps. So this is another important characteristics of your algorithm. So algorithm has the four following characteristics. The first one is input. Algorithm may or may not require input. Second one is each algorithm is expected to produce at least one result, that is nothing but it should produce output. And definiteness, each instruction must be clear and unambiguous, that defines the definiteness of property of algorithm. And the fourth one is finiteness. If the instructions of algorithm are executed, algorithm should terminate after finite number of steps. These are the four important characteristics of the algorithm. The algorithm and flowchart include following three types of control structures. So each and every algorithm and the flowchart that we will see in the next slides, coming slides, we will see what is flowchart and everything. So these two algorithm and flowcharts, they should include certain types of control structures. The first one is sequence. In the sequence structure, statements are placed one after the other, and the execution takes place starting from up to down. So from top to down, the execution takes place. Okay, from the top to down, the execution takes place. So in the sequence, the statements are placed one after the other, and that is nothing but one after the other, one by one. The statements will be placed, and their execution will take place from the top to down. Okay, that is about sequence control structures. So we will see what are sequence control structures also, with related to some particular programming language, and also in general also we'll see. Next we will see what the second one is branching or selection. In branch control, there is a condition, and according to a condition, a decision of either true or false is achieved. In the case of true, one of the two branches is explored, but in the case of false condition, the other alternative is taken. Generally, the if then is used to represent branch control. So, in the branching, nothing but selection. In branch control, there is a condition, and according to condition, a decision of either true or false is achieved. So, there will be a condition, and depending on that condition, result we will decide. Okay, we will decide either if it is true or false. We will decide. In case it is true, one of the two branches explode, but in the case of false condition, the other alternative is taken. Generally, if then is used to represent branch control. So if then, if else, we have if else in like in C, we will use these branch statements, so that branch control will be taken place. And we will have third type of control structure, that is loop or repetition. The loop or repetition allows the statements to be executed repeatedly based on certain loop condition. Example, while, for loops, and also we'll have do while. All these things we will discuss. Okay, we will see what is the way of writing these control structures in algorithms and flowchart. We will discuss. Okay, looping means the loop or repetition allows statements to be executed repeatedly based on certain loop condition. Okay, based on certain condition, loop condition, we will keep on execute these set of statements. So that is nothing but the repetition. Okay, so we have while and for loops. Now, the advantage of algorithms. Algorithms, it is a stepwise representation of a solution to a given problem, which makes it easy to understand. So, the very first advantage of algorithm is it is a stepwise representation of solution to a given problem, which makes it easy to understand. So, since it is the problem is solved using step by step, the problem statements can be converted relatively into a particular programming language, and it is very easy to understand these steps, and also the instruction that are representing that particular step, and it is very easy to understand. An algorithm uses a um, definite procedure. So every algorithm it uses a definite procedure. The important characteristics of the algorithm, they makes it a definite one, and also it makes them a finite one. So the algorithm uses a definite procedure. So it will definitely it uses clear and unambiguous statements. That's why it is a definite one. Okay, it is not dependent on programming language, so it is easy to understand for anyone even without programming knowledge. So since it is a generic one, the logic is represented in algorithm. It need not require any programming language for any user to understand the particular algorithm that has been written. So it is not dependent on any programming language, and it is easy to understand for anyone even without programming knowledge. Okay. Every step in an algorithm has its own logical sequence. So it is easy to debug. Every step in an algorithm has its own logical sequence. So it is easy to debug. Since the algorithm steps has their own logic, it is easy to debug. So if you find some problem, you can simply move on to the particular step and you can correct the particular step logic, and then again you can make your algorithm to work fine. So it is easy to debug. How to write algorithms. So the in this slide we will learn how to write a particular algorithm. So nothing but how to the steps in writing the algorithm. The first step, define your algorithm's input. So the very first step one is the algorithm may not take some input. So define your algorithm input. Many algorithms take in data to be processed. Example, to calculate the area of triangle, input may be the rectangle, rectangle height and rectangle width. So in this case, your algorithm is to calculate the area of rectangle. So it requires definitely some input. The inputs will be height and width of your rectangle. So define your algorithm's input. So you should define the algorithm's inputs the very first. The first step is define your algorithm's input. The second step is define the variables. So every algorithm will have certain variables so that you can store your output of your algorithm. Once you supplied your input and you did some calculations, you should store the result in certain variables, so output variables. So in those variables are, if you want to take input also, you should require some variables. So those variables should be defined. Algorithms variables allow you to use it for more than one place. We can define two variables for rectangle height and rectangle width as height and width. We should use meaningful variable name instead of using h and w. Use height and width as variable name. So algorithm should have clear information about your variables. So since you are your algorithm is to calculate the area of the rectangle, you should have two variables for height and width, and those variables should not be used with shortcut names like h and w. They should be defined with their clear identity. For height, you should write HEIGHT, and for width you should write WIDTH, not HRW. Okay, if you write also there won't be any problem, but you should, your algorithm will not give clear information to some new users. Okay, and the third step, outline the algorithm's operation. You use input variables for computation purpose. Example, to find area of rectangle, multiply the height and width variable and store the value in new variable, say area. An algorithm's operations can take the form of multiple steps and even branch depending on the value of the input variables. So outline the algorithm's operations. Use input variables for computation purpose, and algorithms operation can take the form of multiple steps and even branch depending on the value of the input variables. So you should define the algorithms operations, whether the operations they take sequence operations or branch operations, or the, even your algorithm computations may take repeated operations. So depending on the your algorithm, you should develop particular logic using sequential structures, SQL structures, or sequential control structures or branch control structures or loop control structures. You should use among these three you should use one of that, or you can use mixing of these three, and you should develop the algorithms operations. And then in the fourth step, output the results of your algorithm's operation. In case of area of rectangle, output will be the value stored in variable area. If the input variable so described a rectangle with a height of 2 and a width of 3, the algorithm would output the value of 6. So output the results of your algorithm's operation. You should use one variable. That variables can be used for displaying the output, or for computing the computation. You should use the input variables, and then you should store the result in the particular variable, that is output variable. So output the results of your algorithms operation in a output variable. So these are the four steps. The first step is define your algorithms input. Second, define the variables. Third step, outline the algorithms operation. Fourth, output the results of your algorithms operations. So these are the four steps that you using which you can write algorithms. Then we will discuss flowchart. So till now we have discussed about algorithm, characteristics of algorithm, how to write the algorithm, and all these things we have discussed now. And also we have discussed the advantage of algorithms. Now we'll see what is flowchart. The first design of flowchart goes back to 1945, which was designed by John von Neumann. So the flowchart was the very first flowchart was designed by John von Neumann. Unlike an algorithm, flowchart uses different symbols to design a solution to a problem. So algorithm will be written in a sequential manner, and using the simple English language statements we have written the algorithm. But our flowcharts, they use different symbols to design a solution to a problem. So it uses basically symbols. That's why it is called flowchart, and also it has some flow from one statement to the other statement. It is another commonly used programming tool. By looking at a flowchart, can understand one can understand the operations and sequence of operations performed in a system. So just by looking at your flowchart, we can understand the operations and sequence of operations performed in a system. Flowchart is often considered as a blueprint of a design and used for solving a specific problem. So flowchart is often considered as a blueprint of a design, and how to solve the problem will be um, specified in this particular blueprint. That's why it is very easy to understand. The advantage of flowchart is an excellent way of communicating the logic of a program. So it is a very good way, so that you can communicate the logic of your problem or your program. Okay, using flowchart, you can easily communicate the logic of program to every user. Okay. Second, easy and efficient to analyze problem using flowchart. That is very easy, and also it is it can be efficiently analyzed using your flowchart. Okay, problems can be very easily solved, and you can easily analyze, and they are efficient even. Okay, during program development cycle, the flowchart plays the role of a blueprint, which makes program development process easier. So in your flowchart, you will have certain flow symbols, and using these symbols you will represent the flow from one symbol to the other symbol. So that gives you a blueprint. Using that blueprint you can develop your program very easily. Okay, the development process will be very easy by just looking at that blueprint, and it is very efficient also. After successful development of a program, it needs continuous timely maintenance during the course of its operation. The flowchart makes program or system maintenance easier. So once you have developed successfully your program, it needs certain maintenance. Okay, some of the modules should be added, something else should be modified in the logic of your program. All these things you can do just by looking at your flowchart. You can identify the model in which you have to change the logic. All these things you can usually do, and it is very easy. The flowchart makes program or system maintenance easier. So you can easily change the particular block of your flowchart, and you can jump onto the particular instructions, set of instructions, and you can change them, so that you can change the entire logic also, and it is very easy. Okay, you need not worry about the logic in the other sections of your program. Just you can modify the corresponding flowchart or symbols and steps, and you can modify the instructions. It is easy to convert the flowchart into any programming language code. So if you once you understand the flowchart, you will come to know what are the control structures that you should use. Either you should use sequential structures or um, repeating structures or anything, or you should use branch control instructions. All these things you will simply understand by looking at the flow chart. Once you understand the flow chart, you can easily understand which type of control structures and which sequential structures you should use. All these things will be well known to you. If you have the idea about programming language, you can use this flow chart and you can develop your code easily in that particular programming language. So it is very easy to convert the flowchart into any programming language code. Now we'll see what are the limitations. So there are certain limitations of flowchart, and we will see what are the limitations. Limitations of using flowcharts. Complex logic. Sometimes the program logic is quite complicated. In that case, flowchart becomes a complex and clumsy. So sometimes your program logic is very complicated. In that case, flowchart becomes complex and clumsy because it will involve branch and control instruction, branch type of control instruction, branching type of structures you should use, and those branch structures again in turn they will use loop structures, or they may involve sequential structures. All these things will be very clumsy, so that makes your flowchart becomes complex. Okay, so it may sometimes be your complex algorithm or flowchart should have some complex logic, and that makes your flowchart become complex and clumsy. And alterations and modifications. If alterations are required, the flowchart may require redrawing completely. So once you need some alterations or modifications, you sometimes it requires flowchart redrawing. Okay, the flowchart should have to be redrawn completely, and it is very difficult to redraw it. Sometimes it will become difficult to redraw the entire flowchart. And reproduction, as the flowchart symbols cannot be typed, reproduction of flowchart becomes a problem. So since it involves flowchart symbols, drawing these flowchart symbols and connecting them, all these things may become very complex, and it becomes difficult to reproduce the flowchart. Okay, so that your problem can be represented. So these are the three limitations. The first one is complex logic. The flowchart sometimes involves complex logic, so that it becomes very complex to represent it. And alterations or modifications, since it involves complex logic, it becomes very difficult to alter it and modify it. And even if you want to reproduce or redraw the entire flowchart, it becomes very difficult. Reproduction, as the flowchart symbols cannot be typed, reproduction of flowchart becomes a problem. Flowchart is a diagrammatic or graphical representation of sequence of steps to solve a problem. Again, the definition. To draw a flowchart, following standard symbols are used. So there are several symbols that you can use in flowchart. The very first symbol is oval symbol. You can see it looks like a ellipse. It is used to represent start and end of flowchart. So the function of this symbol is it is used to represent start and end of flowchart. So where you sometimes your program will be started and it will end. So for the beginning of at the beginning of your program or your flowchart, you should use the symbol oval symbol, and at the end of your flowchart also you should use the symbol oval symbol. And the next symbol that we use in flowchart is parallelogram. It is used for input and output operation. So you both for input and output operations we should use parallelogram symbol. And rectangle symbol, the rectangle symbol, this one, the rectangle symbol, it is used for processing, used for arithmetic operations and data manipulation. So the processing steps will be represented in the rectangle. Okay, in the rectangle you should you should write the steps that are being taken in solving the problem. So processing steps should be nothing but arithmetic operations and data manipulation should be written in the rectangle, and diamond symbol, it is used for decision making, used to represent the operations in which there are two to two or three alternatives, true and false. Okay, so sometimes your program logic may involve decision making. So for you representing the decision making things, you should use the diamond symbol. Okay, that is arrows, and you have the next symbol, that is arrows. So arrows are um, used for flow line, used to indicate the flow of logic by connecting symbols. And circle, the circle is used for page connector. Okay, page connector can be used for the circles. The language used to write algorithms is simple and similar to day-to-day life language. The variable names are used to store the values. The value stored in a variable can change in the solution steps. In addition, some special symbols. నేను మళ్ళీ చేస్తా క్లాస్లో ఉన్న. నేను క్లాస్లో ఉన్న మళ్ళీ చేస్తా. The language used to write algorithms is simple and similar to day-to-day life language. The variable names are used to store the values. The values stored in variables can change in the solution steps. In addition, some special symbols are used as below. So there are certain special symbols will be used in algorithms and flowchart. Assignment symbols. So equal to symbol is used to assign value to the variable. Example, to assign value 5 to the variable height. Statement is height equal to 5 or height equal to 5. The symbol square symbol or equal to symbol can be used for assignment. The symbol equal to is used in most of the programming language as assignment symbol. The same has been used in all the algorithms and flowcharts in the manual. The statement C equal to A plus B means that add the value stored in a variable A and variable B, then assign store the value in variable C. So C equal to A plus B means add the value stored in variable A and variable B and then assign or store the value in variable C. The statement R equal to R plus means R plus 1 means that add 1 to the value stored in the variable R and then assign and store the new value in variable R. In other words, increase the value of R by 1. So R equal to R plus 1 means increase the value of R by 1 and assign it back to the variable R. We have certain mathematical operators and their meaning which is used in the flowcharts and algorithms. So the very first type of operator that we use is mathematical operators, and we also use relational operators. So mathematical operator plus symbol, meaning of the symbol is addition. Example is a plus b. And we have minus symbol, which means subtraction, and it is if you have variables a and b, if you have written these in between a and b, then it means subtraction of a and b. Subtract b from a. And if you have operator star, that is nothing but multiplication, and example is a star b. And also we have slash division, a by b. And we have power, that is nothing but caret symbol, which means power a cap 3 for a cube. So a to the power of 3 can be represented using a power symbol, that is cap or caret 3, and percentile symbol, which is nothing but remainder, a remainder b. So remainder of a and if you have a and b, and a percentile b means the remainder obtained after you divide a with b. Okay, that is the mathematical operators and their meaning. And we have relational operators. We have relational operators like operator less than, meaning of it is less than, and we have example a less than b. And less than or equal to is also there in relational operators, that meaning of it is a less than or equal to b. and you can write it example a less than symbol followed by equal to b, and we have operator equal to or double equal to, meaning of it is equal to, so we can use single equal to or double equal to, and meaning of it is equal to a equal to b. And we have not symbol, that is a pound symbol, or also hash. Okay, or we can use not a question, exclamatory symbol, and we can use equal to, both can serve the same purpose, and the meaning of it is not equal to, so we can use a not equal to b, a pound b, or a hash defense symbol, hash b, or a not equal to b. We can use both for the same purpose, that is not equal to a not equal to b. And we have greater than symbol, which is meaning of it is greater than a greater than b. Example is a greater than b. And greater than or equal to, meaning of it is greater than or equal to, and we can have a greater than symbol followed by equal to and b. So these are the relational operators and mathematical operators. And in mathematical operators we have plus, minus, into, division, power, and remainder operator. And in relational operators we have less than or equal to, not equal to, greater than, and greater than or equal to. So these symbols can be used for writing logic and computation steps in the algorithms and flowcharts. And also we have logical operators. The logical operators that we use in the algorithms and flowcharts are and or not. Example for and a less than b. So we'll use relational operators and also we use logical operators in combination. A less than b and b less than c. So we can use a and b, alphabetic a and b, for the purpose of and operator. So the meaning of it is result is true if both a and b less than c, a less than b and b less than c are true, else false. So the meaning of it is if both are a less than b and b less than c are true, then only the result of this AND operation will be true. Or a less than b, or o or r, alphabetical r, and b less than c, a less than b or b less than c. The result is true if either a less than b or b less than c are true. Else it is false. So the meaning of it is r symbol is if both a less than b and b less than c are false, then the result is false. Otherwise, in all the other cases, the result is true. Not, we have not also, not of a greater than b. So if the result of a greater than b is true, then it will become false. If the result of a greater than b is false, then it will become true. So vice versa, result is true if a greater than b is false, also true. So these are the logical operators. The logical operators are and, are, and not. And we have selection control statements. Selection control statements: if condition then end if, and if x greater than 10 then y equal to y plus 5 end if. The meaning of it is you can understand it very easily. If condition x greater than 10 is true, execute the statement between then and end if. So if you have the condition met, then in between whatever is there, if and end if, that will be executed. That is the meaning of this selection control. If condition then end if condition then else, followed by something else, and end if x greater than, example is if x greater than 10 then y equal to y plus 5, else y equal to y plus 8, z equal to z plus 3, end if. So the meaning is if condition x is greater than 10, it is true, execute the statement between then and else. Otherwise execute the statements between else and end if. So if condition is true, then between then and else will be executed. Otherwise you have to execute between else and the end if. Okay, that is the purpose, that is the meaning of this if else if and if. We have loop control statements. While condition do and do, example while x is less than 10 do something repeatedly and do. So, okay, meaning execute the loop as long as the condition is true. So whatever is when whatever statements are there in between your do and end do, all these will be executed until your condition becomes false of your while. And we have do until condition, do until do something else. In between there will be in between something will be there, and after that you will have until, and followed by the condition. Execute the loop as long as the condition is false. So that is the purpose of these loop control statements like while, do, end, do, until. Go to statement, also called unconditional transfer of control statement, is used to transfer control of execution to another step or statement. Example, the statement go to n will transfer control to step or statement n. So go to will be there, um, uh, and the go to statement is used for transferring your control from some particular statement to some other particular statement without any condition. Okay, unconditional transfer of control statement. So the unconditional transfer statement go to is also used in algorithms. Okay, we can use keyword input or read get to accept inputs, and keywords print or write or display to output the result. So for getting the input, we can use input read get. For output, showing the results, we can use print write or display as the output. Okay, output the results. So the algorithm, we have two algorithms. The algorithm, the very first algorithm is for computing the addition of two numbers. So algorithm is just like this. Step 1 start, the very first step, that is start step. Step 2 input first number, say A. Step 3 input second number, say B. So step 4 is computation step, which is nothing but sum of A and B. And step 5 is display sum. Step 6 is stop. Okay, so the same can be represented in flowchart. Start, input value of A, input value of B, sum equal to A plus B, print sum, and stop. So steps are very simple. You should start and then you should ask for the inputs of A and B. Then you should do the calculation of A plus B, and then you should display the result. And you can observe the symbols. The start symbol is represented using vowel, and input will be input was asked to in the input is represented in the symbol. Input statement is represented in the symbol, the parallelogram, and rectangle symbol is used for computations, and again stop is represented using oval symbols. So second algorithm is also the very same. It is display of sum. Okay, both are same. Input two numbers A and B. Step 3 sum A plus B, display sum, stop 5. So we can use either of these two methods for finding the addition of two numbers. So the flowcharts you can understand, and also the algorithm is self-explanatory. And we have other flowchart algorithm for finding the um, Fahrenheit equivalent of your Celsius temperature. Okay, in this algorithm, C is temperature in Celsius, F is temperature in Fahrenheit. So these are C and F are used for, C is used for Celsius, F is used for temperature in Fahrenheit. Algorithm is step 1 start, step 2 input temperature in Celsius, say C. Step 3 the this is the computation step, so you should know the formula for F is 9.0 by 5.0 into C plus 32. So using this computation step you will calculate what is F, that is the equivalent of C. And then in step 4 display temperature in Fahrenheit F. Step 5 is this last step, that is stop. Okay, and if you can observe the flowchart also. Start, input value of C, F equal 9.0 by 5.0 into C minus 32, and printf you have printed the result, and then you finally stop. And the same in a different way, which is used for conversion of your Fahrenheit into Celsius. Okay, this is the flowchart and algorithm. The algorithm, it is asked, it is started. After that, step 2 input temperature in Fahrenheit, say F. Step 3 C equal to 5.0 by 9.0 into F minus 32, and then display temperature in Celsius, and finally it is stopped. Okay, so steps are represented in flowchart also. Start, input value of F, C equal 5.0 by 9.0 into F minus 32, print C, and finally it stop the flowchart. Okay, so these are the steps, and these are the other algorithm which is used for finding the perimeter of square. So you can observe L is the side length of square, area means area of square, perimeter of square. Algorithm step 1 start, step 2 input side length of square, say L. Step 3 area equal to L into L, perimeter is 4 into L, display area, and step 5 is the display area, perimeter. Step 6 stop. So these steps are self-explanatory, and the flowchart also you can see. Start, input value of L, area equal to L into L, perimeter equal to 4 into L, finally you printed output, um, area and perimeter, and you stop. And also for rectangle, you if you want to find the area and perimeter, you should require length of rectangle L, breadth of rectangle B, area of rectangle, perimeter of rectangle. Step 1 start input. Step 2 input side length and breadth, say L B. And step 3 area equal to L into B, perimeter 2 into L plus B. And finally you have to output the results, that is um, perimeter and area. After that you have to stop, that is sixth step. So algorithm flowchart also involves start input values of L and B, area equal to L into B, perimeter equal to 2 into L plus B, and then you have to print area and perimeter, then you have to stop. So these are the steps of your flowchart for finding the area and perimeter of rectangle. So in this session we covered what are the problem steps in steps 6 steps in solving the problem, and also we discussed what is flowchart, what are the algorithms, their characteristics, how to represent the flowchart using symbols and various symbols we discussed. Thank you. This concludes our session.